everybody, it is Julie. Welcome back to Pages and Pens. Today I'm here with a book review for you. I thought long and hard about this one, and I have talked about this book before on my channel, but I've decided after hearing some of your comments down in the comment section and also just wanting to talk about this book a little bit more than I've had a chance to before, that I'm going to go ahead and do a review. There is no way to talk about this book without discussing some of the actual cited references within the book. I don't know that I've really done that enough to feel like I've done justice to a review. And I've had some time to sit with it, and I've had some time to think about the story, so there's definitely some things that I want to say. I clearly had some thoughts while I was reading this. This will be a review and discussion. I'll let you know when the review is over and the discussion starts, so that if you want to still read this, you can go and do that. This book is about Wavy. Wavy is the daughter of Liam and Val. Liam is a meth dealer and producer. He cooks drugs. He is the leader of a biker gang, and her mother is a legitimate crazy person. The parents are completely and utterly absent. Her father lives at a different house with his bevy of biker bitches and girlfriends. Her mother lives up with her and her younger brother, Donald. Wavy has taken over the role of parent for Donald, just in general, even for her parents when they're on these drug binges and just not around. She is very grown. She has to take on a ton of responsibility. And the only time she really gets to herself is at night. She sneaks out a lot at night, and she's obsessed with constellations. She looks up in the sky and she knows that those are like the one constant. Even if they rotate, she knows they'll be back again. She's obsessed with learning all of the names for the constellations, and it's just like that's her safe space. And then one night she's out there and causes a motorcycle crash, and it's one of the guys that works for her father as a thug, and he crashes and she, helps him, and they form a friendship. Now, at the beginning of this, Wavy is 8 and Kellen is in his 20s. The friendship really does generally at first start off as a friendship. But this book does have incredible trigger warnings for, gosh, so many things. This has trigger warnings for drug use, for abuse, emotional abuse, pedophilia, mainly also just pedophilia, a lot of that. Eventually this relationship between Wavy and Kellen turns into something more than friendship. Wavy is really, really craving anybody in the world to look after her instead of the other way around, and just needs somebody there for her. And Kellen becomes that person, and it does turn romantic when Wavy is young. I want to say she's 13 and he's about 24 or 26. And just a lot of twisted stuff going on. Her family life is horrific. Her school life is obviously struggling because of that. It is difficult to read at times, and it is very heavy. And it weighs heavy on your heart even after you're done reading it. Your heart breaks for this little girl. And I will say this, and I feel like I've seen this in a lot of reviews, Bryn Greenwood's writing is beautiful. There were a lot of very well written, very, very beautiful parts of this book. Wavy and Kellen as characters were so rich and real, which made it, again, very, very hard to read, but you were compelled to want to know what happened to this poor girl and how this relationship plays out. It is complex, it is troubled, but it is beautiful. I'm not going to take away from the fact that the writing in this is gorgeous. I have also heard from a subscriber who I believe reached out to me on Instagram to tell me that this is loosely autobiographical, that Bryn Greenwood herself has a father who was a drug dealer or is still a drug dealer, and that she formed a relationship with somebody her senior when she was young. I don't want to speak to her experience. I feel like in terms of the drug lifestyle, the biker lifestyle, the way that children fall through the cracks, the social, welfare, the family dynamic of trying to save these kids and get them out of harm's way, the teachers that interact with these children, the way that they're just really lost in the system over and over again, I feel like is pretty accurate. I do think that her life probably came to play in a lot of the parts of that book. So it feels very authentic. And I think because it's so well written and it feels so authentic, it makes it that much more difficult to read. I think it is a well-written book. It's about a topic that's very disturbing. Beautiful? I don't know. I'm very, very torn about it. There were a couple drawbacks to this book, aside from the topic being one that's taboo, which doesn't inherently bother me. One being There are over a dozen points of view in this book. You get Wavy, you get Kellen, you get her parents, you get her, I don't know if you ever get her brother, but you get teachers that come into her life, you get Kellen's employer, you get judges, you get shop owners. There's so many people that you get a point of view from in this, and I understand that that's a way to kind of give you a view to how the world sees their relationship. You get so used to reading through Wavy and Kellen and seeing their love for each other that you start to root for them. You start to want anything that makes this little girl's life a little bit easier. And you start to not see their relationship as problematic or wrong. So every now and then, I think getting an outside perspective really did kind of make you remember, like, oh, this is cringy. Oh, this should not be happening. This is what this looks like because this is what this actually is. And I think that distance was necessary in some parts of the book. However, I don't think that there was a reason for all of the different points of view. It goes too far. One of the other main issues that I took with this book were that because of the environment and the socioeconomic status of these people and just in general, there's a lot of slurs. There's a lot of horrible language used in this book. I take issue with the fact that Kellen, he is the only known person of color in the story. He is Native American, and he is constantly referred to in the book as Chief. I understand that that's a slur that the other people around him are using towards him to kind of give you an idea of what he's dealing with. It feels really wrong. There's different references in here to his physical appearance and also his mental capabilities. There's hints in here that he may be an alcohol baby. The author uses the word retard, which I hate saying, repeatedly in this book, and that really bothers me. It's one of the words that I cannot stand. I talked about that in my wrap-up when I talked about this just briefly. So if that's a trigger word for you, that's going to be a problem. Now, for the majority of this book, you don't see Kellen as the villain. Again, you get so invested in their love story, you don't always see him as wrong, but he's a pedophile. And for not the only villain, because her father, everybody's horrible, but the pedophile in this book is a person of color and is constantly put down for his physical appearance and his race. Not okay. It just bothers me, and I will cite some page references for that in the discussion part. For now, I will say that those are my two main drawbacks. One being the person of color being the villain in the story, as well as the word usage and slurs and the use of the word retard, and then the points of view in this are just ridiculous. I want to point out that there is an area in this book where Wavy starts to grow up a little bit more, and it is dull as heck. I will talk about it more in the discussion portion, but there is an obvious pacing difference between different portions of this book, and that was like torturous to read. Those are my general thoughts. My general thoughts so far have been over 12 minutes. I can see it in my viewfinder, so I'm going to finish that part of the review here. I will say I gave it 3 stars. It very easily could have been a 4 or 5 star book if it hadn't been for the flaws that I found that I've just discussed. Even though it's a taboo, dark, really difficult book to read, I liked it. So that says something. But I'm going to start getting into tabs. I'm going to start talking about some details about the book. So if you're interested in those, definitely, if you're intrigued enough to go and read this book, I'm not going to say not to. I think it's still worth a read, but just know going into it, there's triggers and there's a lot of heavy material. So just know that your heart can handle that. And if you want to go read it and then come back and watch the rest of this video, I encourage that. I hope you will, because I would like to talk about it with you guys. But that's it for the non-spoilery part. I'm going to get into the discussion part of this video. So if that's all you're watching, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in my next video. And if you're